Is this thing on? Is this an audience or an oil painting? A little lower. Testing, 1, 2, 3, a little lower. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Keep going, keep going, keep going. No, one more. All right. Because I like the boom, but is that still a good recording?
We'll see. If not, they'll come back and say, turn it back up.
Okay. Because I don't need the what's the word, the amplification, just the recording. It's getting to be like Friday afternoon. I can roll my sleeves up a little bit. So, what's the name of this session? This is the session on eLangdell. And I'm really happy for you all to have shown up. Thank you very much. My name is John Mayer, and I'm the Executive Director of CALI. And I'm going to try to speak as little as possible because I think there's more interesting speakers to follow me. But I get to give sort of the what is it and super fast overview. So I'm going to whip through like my 30 slides in less than 5 minutes, I hope, just because I like to create lots of slides. So the first instantiation of this idea was back in 2006 at a plenary I gave at this conference called Rip, Mix, Learn. And in that I said, what if Christopher Columbus Langdell were alive today, and what would he do if he were reinventing the idea of the casebook? And the answer that I gave was that he would have faculty contributing to a digital database of teaching materials. That would be the mother of all casebooks, from which would spawn all casebooks or all course materials in some sort of electronic social nirvana, right? Of course, they would be electronic casebooks. No need to carry around dead trees that weigh too much and cost too much. And they would be device agnostic. They would run on any device. Matter of fact, given the way students work, they would run on multiple devices. So when they're standing in line at Starbucks, they could be reading. When they're at the library, they could be taking notes on their laptop. When they're in bed, they could be leaned back with their Kindle or their iPad, right? What we're learning about reading that I got from Richard's talk just this morning is that it's not as simple as just a book and a read. It's contextual as well as situational as well as a relationship. That's what I'm getting out of that. So there might be, though, variations on this theme, which is to say groups of faculty who band together in tribes to form interest groups or social networks around the production of the best darn torts book or the best darn dog law book or something like that. Students would be happy because they wouldn't be heavy. They would cost less or nothing in some cases. But why would faculty care about this, right? So the reason the faculty or law schools would care about this is because we've got Carnegie saying change, change, change. We've got the increasing amount of law being taught into interdisciplinary law, saying we need new books and different books, curriculums being revamped. And if you're going to revamp a curriculum, then you can't wait 18 months for the book to catch up. So you need a faster, iteratable system for producing electronic course materials. And the ABA just today changed the standards a little bit on how they ask schools about their employment statistics, right? So the ABA is also an agent of change in this. So my manifesto was that we must free the faculty from, that the fact that they have to elect one book because, I'd like to assign a couple of chapters from this book and a couple of chapters from this book, but that means I have to make you pay $150 twice or 3 times. Instead, I want to free the faculty to be able to assign whatever they want without thinking about the cost. The cost should not be a factor in the educational aspects of the production of the course materials. I want the faculty to be able to directly edit the materials, cannot directly, except through the syllabus. What that cryptically means is that faculty edit the book in an indirect way by saying, read this chapter, then read this chapter, then read this chapter. Why not allow faculty to directly edit or rearrange materials? Be able to create cross-discipline courses. If you don't agree with something, you can insert different chapters, all right? So it's all about freedom, innovation, and education, but it's a chicken and egg problem, and that's why we came up with something called the eLangdell stimulus project over a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, in which we were offering to faculty to write a chapter for $500 or pay sometimes up to $20,000 to write a book up front, with the idea that if the faculty member wrote the book or the chapter and we published it, then we would publish it for free, Creative Commons. Students could download .mobi, PDFs, RTFs, and they wouldn't see a royalty stream, but they got all that money up front. It was a way of getting some materials into a production stream for us and to start to test this idea of an open access electronic casebook model. All right? So how's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? Who said that? Okay. Hope he changed anything. Oh, well, it's working out pretty good in some respects. We've got Professor Hatfield's Ethics of Tax Lawyering, and here he is mentioning that he's a chapter discussion of the professional responsibility of tax lawyers in the eLangdell CALI Casebook series. We've got Doug McFarland and Roger Park's book, Computer-Aided Exercises on Civil Procedure, and Doug's going to talk a little bit more about that, so I'll just mention that it was on Amazon for $62 a few months ago, and now it's free on our website. We've got a pretty good list of coming soon that somebody else is going to probably show, no? I can alt-tab over to it, I think, because I had it open a minute ago. Oh, there it is. Coming soon. Yes, there's our coming soon list. So this is a collection of books that we only listed if we've got a contract with the author. We're in discussions with more authors than are on this list, but I can't talk about that. And so as we get those materials from the author and process them, they'll be published. Oh, hit resume slideshow. But here's something. Here are some of my eyesights. This process so far has challenged my ideas of what a casebook is. Casebook is, yes. It's not just. At least, no. Let me restart that. I thought this project was going to be just take what casebooks are now and turn them into electronic versions of them, and that the innovation was electronic and therefore and free, so widely available. I didn't want to get into the whole, how do we transmedia this, how do we multimedia this, how do we make all sorts of other things about it, because I didn't know how to do that. I felt like that was as an engineer trying to design a system, I thought, well, I can engineer turning the existing model of casebooks into electronic versions, but I couldn't engineer what I didn't know, all right? But I was challenged by that. Authors coming to us and saying, well, as long as I'm going to do something electronic, let's do something really cool with this. And so that's a different or a longer conversation. What is the definition of a chapter? We originally went to people and said a chapter is the amount of reading you assign to a student for 1 hour of class. Well, even that very precise, carefully worded definition has lots of room for discussion. All right? Copyright issues. We want to distribute our books under a Creative Commons license, but authors want to give us things and say, can you clear the copyright for us? Or I want to include stuff I'm sure nobody will mind, or it's fair use for various definitions of what fair use are. And quality assurance. This is the weirdest one of all. What is a good casebook? Is there an objective measure of that? Of course not. But is there even like good subjective measures? The answer that I get when I talk to faculty is mostly one of, I'll know it when I see it, or where did that person go to law school, or where do they teach, or what else have they written? So it's difficult, or at least it's not automatable, to determine quality assurance in this process. Another angle to this is the legal education commons. By offering to pay for people to write books, we are we're accidentally causing the marketplace of people that would donate these things for free to hold back and say, well, maybe I could sell it to CALI instead. That's a problem. When you pay for something that people would give away, then you suppress that desire in a market space. All right? But if the market space doesn't have enough people donating in the first place, then you don't get either of things. And so that's why we chose to go towards a stimulus. I'm going to skip past that. And the last point I wanted to make is the Free Law Reporter, which is sort of another track into this. So it's a collection of case law, soon to be 1 million cases, and it has a button on it where you can press and say, get an EPUB of a search of cases. Well, the next sort of logical steps for us is to say, here's a bunch of cases. I'm going to select some of them out. I'm going to click and edit them down a little bit. I'm going to rearrange them and put some of my own text in there, and then I'm just going to self-publish my own materials. All right? And so that and the Commons and our Stimulus project are all hopefully at some point converging into something that's straightforward and coherent. Because right now it's a little bit, in my mind, scattered and hard to get your head around. But it's a learning process for us because we're reinventing the casebook. All right? And so that's my overview. And I think, Doug, you're coming up after me? Good. And I will turn the mic over to you.
Can you want to chapter of your book?
Sure. Okay.
John, can you pull up the eLangdell website, please?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Just from there or home?
One of his chapters. So yeah, there we go. How's that, Doug?
That's not the best one. Pick a different one.
All right. Which one should we pick?
I don't care. Pick any of the others.
Pleadings?
Okay.
Which version should I open? How about the PDF?
Pick 1, 2, or 3.
Pick a different.
Pick a different one.
Book.
A different one? Okay.
Different book. Exercise 1.
Demurs and
exercise
judgments
2,
on the
or
pleadings
exercise
are not
3.
real popular
Your
these
exercise,
days.
You got to scroll over to see what number
There,
you're
that
on.
one's fine.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we want to do something that you can see on the screen here, so let's blow that up a
Okay.
bit. Okay. You want to go from there, or?
Sure,
All right.
that's fine. Well, basically, I got involved with CALI a long time ago, about 20 years ago. Roger Park, who was one of the founders of CALI, and he was in civil procedure and evidence. And at some point, he decided he wanted to concentrate on evidence, so he was looking around for somebody to take over his civil procedure lessons. So he asked me, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. So basically, we had this book called Computer-Aided Exercises in Civil Procedure. It's used as a supplement. It's not really a case book. It's a supplement for civil procedure. And we had this book, and he had published, I think, editions 1, 2, and 3 maybe. And then I took over and published 4, 5, and 6. And so basically, I used his structure, but I added a few chapters here and there and added a few exercises. So that's how I got involved. But basically, when it came time to do the book or the exercises, I called up Deb and said, here's what I want to do, and she took care of it for me, which is kind of the way I like it. In fact, here's my position, and I'm sure you've all dealt with people like me at your law schools. Getting older, you know. I got this email about 3 weeks ago from Elmer, and it says, every room will have a PC with Office, PowerPoint, Firefox, IE, and all the usual plugins. If you're a Mac user and you want to use your laptop to present, please remember to bring your own video adapter cable. Please upload any PDFs, PPTs, or other files on your session page. And they sent me another email. I've added the link. You can link in your Twitter account. And my reaction is, what? You know, I don't use any of those things. I'm teaching the classroom, and I'm getting a little too old for that sort of stuff. So that's why I'm very pleased to have Deb Quentel, that I just call up and I say, Deb, this is what we want to do, and she does it, or I'm sure the CALI people do it. So anyway, we kind of undercut ourselves a little bit in this book because if you're familiar with the lessons, we have this book that sets up a lot of the CALI lessons that have been around for a long time. And then you go to the CALI lesson and it says you should have prepared this part of your Park and McFarland book first. And of course, Deb would report to me that an awful lot of students would go to the CALI lesson, they do, I don't have the book. And so what we did was we kind of fudged it a little bit, and we put some added facts into the CALI lessons and said, if you have the book, go ahead. If you don't have the book, click here. And we kind of, I don't know if West ever found out about that or not. But anyway.
I'm sure everything was fine, Doug.
Now they'll know. So anyway, this book was never a big seller, and now I got a letter from West, or both Roger and I got a letter from West, I don't know, about 9 months ago, saying, well, we're going to discontinue your book. They didn't say why, but I'm sure it wasn't selling that many copies, so we're going to discontinue your book. So then I said, well, what are we going to do now? And we'd done a lot of work on this. Roger years ago, and I had recently. The most recent edition, I added a whole chapter on joinder and supplemental jurisdiction, which I personally think is pretty good. And I had previously added a chapter on preclusion, and didn't want this stuff to all go away. I thought for a minute, you could maybe try to self-publish it or look for another publisher. And then I thought, well, CALI, e-publishing. I know enough about what's going on that e-publishing is the thing these days. And so I called up Deb, and she said, oh, yeah, we got this project called eLangdell that's starting up. It'll be perfect. And that was the end of the discussion. As far as I was concerned, this is the place for the book. So here it is. I had to revise it for, in effect, another edition. This is, in effect, the 6th edition. The first 5 are in print, and this is, in effect, the 6th edition. And it has 11 exercises in them. All of them have corresponding, well, not all of them. A couple of them have, like Discovery has exercises written by other people, but most of them have exercises written by Roger and me that go with them. And the idea is different in each chapter. This is the chapter on pleading. What do I do to scroll down?
Just hit down here.
Oops, this one?
No, it's this one. Over. You talk. I'll drive.
Okay. So anyway, this is the chapter on pleading, and it has what, go ahead, just keep scrolling down for a ways. It has has what I think is a pretty good hornbook treatment of pleading. Just scroll down a couple pages. History of pleading, common law pleading, just keep going. The code pleading, pleading under the rules will be next. And so it has, again, what I think is pretty good hornbook treatment. Then it ends in an exercise where the students have to, if you can go towards the end of this exercise.
Now, are those live footnotes? With the little reds?
Yep, that means a link.
So those you can-
So I can jump to the footnote and then jump back. Well, scroll back.
There's the footnote.
Right.
Okay.
So there's an exercise at the end of the chapter?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an exercise towards the end there. That's fine. The computer will ask you to use this display, and then the computer will give you various complaints, and then you look at the complaint and you put in, which of these problems you think is with the complaint. So that's kind of how this exercise looks. Others of them, the jurisdiction chapter, for example, has a hornbook treatment, and then it has a bunch of workbook questions. It'll ask a question, usually short hypotheticals, and then it'll get the short student be asked to answer. That's right in the book. That's not on the computer, but there's a completely separate lesson on the computer. And then other ones, I think waiver on Rule 12, under Rule 12, if you're familiar with civil procedure, you can waive under Rule 12. That one doesn't have any hornbook treatment at all. It just has a series of hypotheticals leads you to the computer lesson, has a series of hypotheticals in which you decide whether your defense was waived under Rule 12. So there are like 11 exercises that are in this project now. It's all part of the, we were just talking before the session started that it'd be a good idea to have this under a heading, that this is all part of one book in effect, which maybe we can do. But anyway, the point is, as John was saying, this is all free now. which I'm not totally thrilled with, because I was getting some minor royalties from the book before. I would require my students to buy this book as a supplement, and I think about 2 other schools maybe did also. Not very many, but there are a lot of competing supplementary materials out there these days. So no more royalties, but I am just thrilled that this is going to be out there and available for free. And I think that because it's available for free, I think it's going to be more widely used. I mean, I hope we can get the word out to civil procedure teachers around the country that this is there, because I would think they'd like to use use these things. These exercises are not all self-contained; they're all freely available. Let's see, was there anything else I was going to mention? As far as how I use them, most of them I just tell the students to do them outside class. A couple of them, like waiver under Rule 12, I might go through actually in class. I'll go through in class, but these exercises originally, came from Roger, and the original idea of the CALI exercises was it's not supposed to be here's a question, here's the right answer, here's a question, here's the right answer. It was supposed to be here's a question, you answer it, and then well, wait a second, did you think about this? It's supposed to kind of recreate a Socratic dialogue. So they're all set up that way. They try to push the student, and so I do that one in class, but the others I ask them to do outside class. And I think I've always got good response in the student evaluations at the end of the year. A lot of them will say things like, "Those exercises were great," or that sort of thing. So I think they're valuable. Anybody have a question? No? Okay, who's next?
What do you need, more water?
And we need your mic.
Oh.
I have one, right?
That one's all tuned up.
This one or that one?
This one.
Okay. I'll click onto this one.
I don't think we loaded your PowerPoint yet.
Oh,
so
yeah, oh, okay.
let's do it
You
this
probably
way.
can do this faster than I.
Yeah, let's just knock out to the to that. It's right there.
Perfect. All right. I'm Jennifer Martin, and I'm a faculty member at St. Thomas University in Miami. And I, along with Sally and John and Deb, we have these discussions about book proposals for eLangdell. And what I was hoping that, we could talk about, and I hope that you guys will all engage as well, is how we go through this process about what these books are. And, I may be looking for different things than Sally is, and I'm not sure. So I thought we would have this discussion. One of the things about this decision about what we're looking for is that we all may be looking for different things, and I think different faculty are looking for different things as well. One of the things that comes to mind, I teach the first year contracts classes as well as a commercial law class, and these are actually the books that I've been using, and I like the books that I've been using for my contracts course, but I went on Amazon and checked them out, and it's $250 if the students, just from my class, if the students bought them new. Fortunately, I think two of them, well, one comes out every year. At least the textbook is available and used. So students, from a cost perspective, could choose a lower cost alternative. But, it certainly makes me reconsider the cost of legal education when the students are taking maybe 5 classes in one semester, or if everyone's, choosing a $250 alternative, the cost of the education is steep enough as it is. And so cost, I think, is certainly an alternative, and it's something that's definitely in my mind. But aside of that, my pitch would be that this still makes sense for so many reasons. Now, perhaps this is a crowd that has already invested, but I was thinking about, all the things when we're looking at proposals that are attributes that would make this really attractive to students. And certainly, sophisticated searching, with paper books. I mean, it's old-fashioned searching, right? And so we could find all kinds of things in your book just through a regular, search engine, right? And you just can't do that with paper. So, interactive note-taking, portability. Yes, those books are heavy, as John mentioned. Outlining. We were talking at lunch about potential storage for the future. Students tend to, get rid of their books at the end of the semester because, it's a lot of paper to be having around. And perhaps they wouldn't necessarily do that in the event that they just had an electronic copy. It might sit there and, they might even be in practice at some point and say, we studied something just like this in contracts class, and they can actually search it on their computer and find that resource. Links to other materials. I didn't have any involvement in your materials deck, but I would have liked them because it had a link to CALI lessons and it was interactive. And that's something that I find to be very clever. To the extent we can go outside of our traditional textbooks, I think that's a wonderful attribute. And then, of course, the environmental impact from all the paper. So those are all the things that this has to be the way that we're going to be moving toward doing casebooks. But in terms of what types of proposals actually work, I have two in mind that, as a contracts professor, I thought were interesting, and you might have liked or even not liked these ones for different reasons. I think that they're both different books. And whether I would use one or the other, I could see other faculty making the opposite choice that I did, and often for very good reasons. And so this book is on the law of contracts. It's not live yet. It's in progress, and so it's not available on the CALI site. But I've got a draft of it that I just wanted to show you guys. Oh, sorry. Did I just mess everything up now?
No. You just alt tab to that. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I'm glad I had Word installed.
Yay.
But who doesn't have Word installed?
Exactly. Well, yeah, because this one is in Word. And it's probably, that's how you sent it to me, I think. Because is this working still in Word right now?
We want things in Word.
All right. Page layout. I wanted to do this. Was it view? Maybe it's view? Yeah. Is full screen reading. One of the things I liked about this, now this book is made of 3 different volumes covering all the traditional laws of contracts. It's a complete book, which of course I liked, but I don't know that I necessarily liked all complete books that were out there, but there is a certain amount of finish the material such that if I wanted to adopt this whole book, I could adopt this whole book. It covers all the things that a traditional first-year class would cover, and so there is a kind of step in to it approach. Now this book, there's not a lot of bells and whistles in it in terms of technological things that are going on. Once you get into the text, it really runs just like a standard textbook. That there's not a lot of hyperlinks or the like. Obviously, each of these blue links at the front would take you, for instance, here to the Varney case, and there it is. So that's certainly nice. There is the book certainly takes you to wherever you want to go, which again, I guess a traditional book doesn't. But I could see some faculty members who are maybe willing to adopt an ebook, but not necessarily engage in a whole lot of interactivity, find this completely to be an attractive product. And it's exceedingly finished. Do you remember looking at this one? Mm-hmm. I just thought it seemed to me it covers everything. It's well written. It's got kind of the hornbook types of discussions that Doug was talking about with his. It's got a lot of the traditional cases that are covered in contracts, but it's got some new cases, or different cases perhaps. This Varney case, it's not in the book that I use, and it's certainly not new, but it's a different case perhaps. But I when I looked at that, I liked this for those type of reasons. It's substantive, it's complete, you could step right in if you wanted to just adopt this book, almost like you would any other textbook, if it was in printed form. It reminds me of it was just a printed book, but it's now electronic. And it doesn't have a lot of other things other than that with it. Yes, you can jump around. But I liked it for its professional approach and its completeness. I wanted to kind of contrast that against another one that, or I guess other potential approaches. And when we're listening to Doug talk, one of the things that yours is set up in some type of units or exercises around civil procedure. And one of the proposals that we looked at in the area of contracts did that as well. And it's one that's not available yet. I'm not sure when it'll be available, but hopefully sometime this next school year. But we reviewed a proposal from Frank Schneider at Texas Wesleyan, and his proposal also had this type of units approach to it as well. And I've got one on here on duress, and it has basically there's cases. Introduction. Very bad at this. Problems. And then teaching. Now his materials, much like the full textbook materials, are very polished and it's complete. It covers a lot of mainline cases, but with some additional cases thrown in. But what I kind of liked about this material as an alternative is it's got 4 different components. It's got the teaching notes, it's got the cases, it's got the problems, and they're each in little discrete units. So I thought this type of approach, although very different from the other contracts approach, was something that I could see different professors wanting to use. And maybe similar to Doug's, that this is one that could be adapted for if you just want to do, say, the duress materials, or you just want to do exercise 1 for those who might be just wanting supplements, or like in the book that I use, there's not a whole lot on duress. So I could see just adopting just this particular unit, and then I don't have to worry about changing books. I could keep my existing book if I wasn't concerned about the cost or other issues, and it provides a free supplement for the students even when not adopted as a full text. So I think that that's another approach, whether it's this unit or separate type of approach that I think makes a good proposal for those who are considering putting these in. But the one thing I thought is we saw a lot of different types of proposals, and that come with various types of bells and whistles. They could be very just standard, straight up case books. We reviewed some that weren't even books yet. They were just pure proposals for a book that is yet to be written. And those as well, I think it's, for me, it came down to how well thought through was the proposal. If it's a book that's already written, obviously I think I was looking for something, whether it was a chapter, even just a chapter, something that was a polished, finished product. But if it was a proposal for a book to be written, I think I was hoping for something that really looked like the person had put a lot of thought into it and maybe had a outline of what was going to be in the chapter, for instance, that they'd already made those decisions. So those are some of the things that I was thinking about when it came to some of these proposals. And I do think the contracts proposals give an interesting comparison because they're both very different. Do you have anything to add?
No.
That's all I have to say. Is Deb going to talk, or
I think I'm going to.
you're going to talk?
Yeah, because I just want to go back to the website.
Is that all my pages are now open up here?
Yeah.
No, you don't want that either.
I just want to go, yeah,
It'll all come up eventually, right?
somewhere.
Are you working Firefox?
It's right there, yeah.
Okay. I'm Sally Weiss from the University of Miami, and what I want to do is
go to CALI's website and kind of show you, talk about how you, if you just get to CALI's website, how to go to where you want to go. Okay, I just put in cali.org, and so right now, big thing is Unbound. But if you go down to the bottom with CALI Tools, if you click on eLangdell, you first go to a discussion of the publishing, and I think you can link to John's talk, 2006, maybe not.
I think a more recent talk that I gave about this.
Okay.
And a shorter one, too.
Oh, okay. So that's there, but what you really want to do is go to the eLangdell website. And
I hope that Wi-Fi didn't kick out in the meantime.
I hope you don't seem to be.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So here's the eLangdell website, eBooks for Legal Education. And so if you wanted to kind of see what was available now, we've got the computer. You can just kind of scroll down on the McFarland, and what I wanted you to notice was that John mentioned they're in different types. So this is the .epub, this would be mobile, PDF, and a zip file. So you can put them on different devices and use them differently. I think one of the things that we plan on doing on this website is also explain what all that means. So, how you might want to be able to use those materials and the students so that it's, for some people it's obvious and for others not so much. So do a little bit more, kind of explanation of what the different types are. We've got the coming soon, so you know what's available and what might be available that you could actually use in the fall. And I think you can also look on blog, Twitter, or Facebook, but I think hopefully we'll have just the information on here, so you just have to go to kind of one-stop shopping. But this is the text that Jennifer was showing you on contracts, and ETA is July 2011, which is next Friday, Deb, right?
I was thinking more toward the end of the month. But it is next Friday, you're right, Sally. Thank you.
Well, and if you have questions on some of this, when is this going to be available and what's going to be available, Deb is the one who would be able to answer those questions, because Deb is working with all the authors. But this gives a kind of a description, traditional 4-credit, 1 semester, 1L course. So it does give you a little information. Moving down, we have Law of Trust, Case Problems and Notes. Professor Lewis, Cleveland Marshall, estimated, I'll say October 31st of 2011. So, and it looks like it's going to be more kind of a full textbook. So this will give you an idea of what's coming online, so you can kind of plan around the land use, August 2011, property law, and what it's designed for. So this would be the place to kind of check back and see, because you might even want to, rather than simply adopting it, is just look at different parts and send your students to it for different chapters or different parts. And I believe this is going to be, I got here without even, or you signed in for CALI, so, but the students can just go to this and find it. And one of the questions I wanted to ask, and as I said, we'll try to have, you don't have to necessarily go to blog, Twitter, or Facebook to find out what's current. We'll put it on here. Here's a little bit talking about becoming an author. And one of the main things, and Jennifer was talking about this, but one of the main things I just want to mention is see where we have it. We would like proposals. We're going to ask for proposals in spring of 2012. So we don't have a deadline right now, but we will, put it on this page. And so you can be thinking about it. And if you have kind of questions about what you might want to think about proposing, and here it talks about chapter or book, and what some of the information we want. And as Jennifer said, people are looking for different things. So just chapters are fine, because that would also, we would like to get as much stuff up here, as quickly as possible, under assumption that Deb can, only Deb can, Deb juggles a lot, but can't juggle 30 at a time, but that's what we want to see. So you have chapters and full books, and we'll be looking for more in 2011. And also, I want to ask the question, what type of information, if this is kind of the main eLangdell site, would you like to see on it? What are your questions on this process, or what's available, or what you would like to know? And let's see, we can see. Now, what is this with view, edit, track?
That's because I'm logged in as a
Administrator?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
don't know if people want to do that.
okay.
And John, are these only available for town members?
No,
Are there under password or they're not?
no, they're not under
Okay.
password. It's available. Creative Commons means Creative Commons for
Available to
the
anyone.
world. Yeah.
Is there much international stuff? I'm not sure if Canada is international.
Yeah, you're just our 51st state. No, what you see is what we got up now. We're basically just getting launched, and so no. Would we? A more interesting question is, would we entertain proposals from Canadian authors to write Canadian Casebooks? I don't know. What's the law school? What's the casebook market or the law book market like in Canada?
I have no idea. Yeah, it'll probably 1/10.
We should all be talking in this.
Yeah, we're probably 1/10 of the size of the U.S. in general, and probably about the same for the legal market, I'm guessing, but that's just a guess on my part.
Yeah. At this point,
But you
I'd
put them up
rather
if-
say we'll entertain any proposal.
Yeah.
But just and say, anybody who's serious enough to work with us would be happy to talk to them and listen to it. So.
Yeah.
I would have a question for you, Rich. If you're, I don't care if you're 1/10 the size of the U.S. Here we tend to have, here meaning the U.S., we tend to have a gazillion books for contract law. Do you sense that there are leaders for contract law courses in Canada? For example, could we bump out 2 or 3 books, or do we have to take out 50?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that. My office is in the library, but I'm ashamed to say that I don't have a clue. I'd have to talk to my boss, the head librarian. But I think he'd be very interested in this. I know that in general they like to use consortia to try to do things rather than paying big bucks to vendors. So I suspect that this would be very appealing. But yeah, I'm glad I bumped into John, and earlier he inspired me to come to this session. So.
And Canadian law schools can be members of CALI, and it's dirt cheap.
But
$250
obviously, they don't have to become members of law school
to use our materials. No.
materials, but to.
But membership supports the effort, right?
But the stimulus program, you have to be a member of a CALI school.
Yeah. Steve.
Sally asked about improvements to the website. I was just looking down through this. I think one thing that might be helpful to people, you talk about proposals. If you could get somebody's permission that's already been accepted to put up a sample proposal or 2 so people could see what kind of thing you're looking for in the proposals themselves, that might be helpful for potential authors.
That's a good idea. Sort of maybe even a form. with some, fake filled in text, ipsum lorem, or no, with some actual stuff. Yeah, that's a good idea. Press the speaker button and hold it. You have to hold it.
I have to hold it. Okay. I was looking at eLangdell a little while ago, so I might have missed something by looking at my computer and being a bad student. But do you have full text of the ebooks of any chapters or sample text available? Because I was looking at a lot of EPUB, Mobi files, but if I just wanted to browse around and see what was going on, I would actually have to download that and have some program to open it when I was looking at it. And that seemed like a big
That's a good idea.
barrier.
Right, we don't have
I was-
HTML versions of
Yeah.
we don't have every version of everything,
Right,
but that's
and
an
what you
eventual
could
goal.
get, the first few paragraphs or something.
Yeah.
And I actually talked to Elmer about the thing I'm presenting on with the casebook supplements through Classcaster, using that as an interface possibly. But I do think having some kind of interface where a student or a faculty member who wants to use this textbook could just come in and see what's going on would be nice.
Elmer, press the speaker button and hold it.
Although it's in no way obvious, some of the chapters, at least for the McFarland book, are also available on the Legal Education Commons, and there they use iPaper to actually display on the web page.
Okay. Having more links then would help.
Oh yeah, having more links would definitely help.
No, that's not right.
Because I was trying to find collections and not doing it.
See, what's interesting about this is we're complicating what was simple before, right? You bought a book, everybody knows how to use a book. Now we're saying, well, how many different, which one of like 100 flavors do you want your book, and how many scoops and things like that. And you're right, we need to do more education about the environment than what we currently have. Patrick?
This whole thing is frustrating me a little. And what's frustrating me about it is we seem to be hooked on the book. We're stuck in the book metaphor. And when this whole thing came up, I had, and I still will propose something, but I'm not going to use Word, not because I'm opposed, but because Word doesn't lend itself the way I want to present the materials. So I would need to present the materials in HTML. Well, that's exactly the thing. People have heard me talk about this before. Maybe when I first put stuff up on the web, what I did was publish it to HTML in WordPerfect and stick a syllabus up on the web and think I'd put something on the web. Well, I hadn't. I just stuck a piece of paper on the web. Then I realized, well, I'm now in a whole different kind of environment. So, as you know, John, I'm trying to escape the metaphor of the book. I would love to propose to you my constitutional law materials, which are almost ready to, with some work, are almost ready to be used, but they're going to be in HTML5, style sheets, and there's JavaScript involved, and I could show you a snapshot that I've taken of the website, which goes on a little USB thing, and so you don't have to be online to use it, and all works in there. But it's actually using the fact that it's electronic material that's exploiting the fact that it's now digitized and hypertext and linked and all that. And I didn't see any of that there. All I saw was an electronic book, and I'm frustrated by that, because I think we need to get beyond the electronic book to different ways of using this whole. We're in a different sort of environment. We shouldn't be stuck with the book metaphor. But I've told you that before. I just guess
I don't disagree.
I need to say it again. In
Excellent
public,
point.
'cause
Excellent
it just
point.
Frustrates me.
Rebuttal. No, there's no rebuttal. Go ahead, Jennifer. You want to show your book up here, Patrick? Well, I can describe it. Yeah, lots of hypertext and link, lots of expanding and collapsing of the cases, like in folio.
I've got edited cases where the ellipses in the cases can be expanded so that students can see the whole of the case if they like. All of the edited cases have where an edited case is linked to, students can go to the the stuff that I've got from.
So it's an online book that expands to a bigger online book.
Well, I wouldn't call it a book.
Well,
I said I guess it's an online book insofar as it's a body of text. I mean, if a body of text is a book, it's a book, but it's not a, but it's beyond a book.
But it's a bigger book. Then
You can make it a bigger book.
What do you have that's not a bigger book?
Well, the fact that the ellipses are expandable.
It's an interactive bigger book then.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no video of talking heads and people.
Well, I do have some links to oral argument and that kind of thing
Okay.
in it, but no, I haven't. It isn't yet multimedia in ways that I would like for it to be.
Sure. The new word is
beyond the. But you couldn't do it on paper.
Right, and you can't reproduce it in any one of the 4 formats that we use for eLangdell
Right.
right now.
Okay.
right.
You could say
Or do it on a book reader, except
you can print it to PDF and lose
A
all
book read-
the dynamic
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
right.
It's browser. I mean, it needs to be. It's a website.
Yeah, and that's I don't have a problem with that. I had modest goals for eLangdell, and the fact that you're pushing it is excellent to me. That's wonderful. But it makes the automatability of the process harder, and so it's going to just take us a little while to work those details out. Why am I looking at you?
Tools to edit. Right. We need tools to allow people to create that, to reproduce what you did. And those problems are difficult because we run smack dab because it's all browser based. We run smack dab into browsers, and they're all
Well, it's a different project. A book is one project. A transmedia book is a different project.
And the cases actually work. I was amazed when I discovered this because I mean, doing it in HTML5 with CSS and JavaScript so that it all works and using jQuery underneath. It works on my little Android-based browser. I mean, I can read the cases and it does the expanding of the ellipses and everything. So it's already mobile ready.
Yep.
There are obviously leading authors in particular fields now, and they're probably tied to particular publishers. And so getting a critical mass of publications is one of your first issues. But the time has never been better with all of the national press about the high cost of a legal education. It seems to me one of the really good moves for you would really be to get new faculty from the very beginning thinking of CALI as an alternative publisher. And there are new faculty meetings at AALL. There are ways to reach beginning faculty through some of the ABA conferences. So, I mean, I think this is just critically important to get done. But I think one of the first tasks is to get newcomers thinking of you as an alternative publisher before they're wrapped up by somebody else.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last maybe decade or so, the number of books that the publishers have been publishing, casebooks, there's 40 contracts casebooks available. 40 or I did some Amazon searches a while back. 40 or 50 torts casebooks, or they're called cases and materials, or have something like that. Actually, the total number I counted was over 700 when I searched on cases and materials in quotes in Amazon. So 700 books to cover all of law seems like a lot. So they must be signing up. They must be, what's the word, cannibalizing their own markets a little bit, because if you just sold 1 or 2 per publisher, then there would only be 4 or 5 of those books, or maybe twice as many, maybe 10. But if there's 40, that means that it only takes 100 students for them to make the economic decision. And there's an awful lot of authors making a little tiny bit of money, because the model for authors, at least in terms of remuneration, is royalties. But the model for them is to sell it for $150. not saying that's a bad thing, just saying that that's the model. The total casebook market is about a $90 million market. But, you know, I think it's ripe for what Clayton Christensen would call an innovative disruption. Or at the very least, as I explained to people, and you hate to hear me say this, even if we fail, the existence of this project puts innovative pressure on the vendors to do better at innovating with their materials. And so we can do things that people will say, gee, I wish my book from whatever vendor did what this CALI book does, as we come up with ideas or innovations that they may not have. You know, the more people innovating, the more excellent thought happens. Somebody was going to say something? Oh, Jennifer. No, you pressed the base.
Oh, the base. All right. I think there probably are 40 contracts books, but my sense is there's probably 6 or 8 that are probably the primary ones that are in use. The thing that I look to is there a better alternative and one that's keeping up with technology? Surprisingly, not many, despite the fact that, I guess Lexis, West, and others have these books already in print, not very many of them are in electronic format, and I'm not sure that a lot of them will be in electronic format. So there is a market opportunity for some of these authors, and there are any number of even contracts professors who they don't use any of the main ones. They just make their own materials for cost or who knows what reasons. I think it's interesting, Patrick's question about being able to do video and other fancy things with the presentation. I don't think we've seen any proposals that are anything more than whatever. They are traditional textbooks of a classic sign, not really an interactive casebook. Interactive casebook would be something different. But I don't think anyone's given us any video, or I could see it in the area contracts as well, that there could be videos that accompany cases, particularly in advertising and the like. But we've not seen. I'm just not holding it right. But I don't think we've seen anything like that. It would be interesting, though.
No, I think it would actually be really a plus to be able to do something like that, and that might be easier to do a chapter, and so put some time and effort to figure out a chapter of an area you like and do some more interactive.
We've got to get Elmer to make it so, right, on the technology side of it. Can we do it, or are these the formats that we have? And
Elmer could do anything.
Well, but speaking of Elmer doing something, going back to someone else's question, in terms of being able to browse some of these books or to take a peek at them, is it possible to put like the table of contents or some, how in Amazon you can get a
look inside the book.
Peek, to look inside the book. Right. If we had an ability to take a peek inside, Doug's material without necessarily having to download, even if you're not going to get that much, I think that would be pretty cool if we can do it, but you're the man that knows if we can do it.
Yeah, and you can do it with the McFarland stuff. The chapters are on the Legal Education Commons also. They're just not linked. It's just not all linked together, which is just a problem that needs to get fixed. So, but if you look at them on the Legal Education Commons, they're actually in the they're actually viewable in the browser window, so you can see the whole chapter right there on the screen. And I don't remember why I didn't do that on the eLangdell site. There was a reason why I didn't do it, and I don't remember what it is. I think it had something to do with it. Right, we just need to link through those. Yep.
Like we have some kind of standard protocol, a look inside the book type of ability.
The magic word standard. Right. But if the book is a web page, there is no look inside. Well, no. I'm just saying.
Here you have to actually download the whole thing. There's no just take a peek.
Right, it's a file that has to be opened in an application.
At an HTML site, but there you do have to download it.
Yeah.
So that's more of an impediment than to be able to just take a quick peek.
Press the button.
bandwidth is cheap.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I think the look inside the book is only when you're trying to sell someone something. I mean, it costs you 10 seconds to download the whole thing, so you might as well have it. It's free. And then you've got it on the book, and maybe, I mean, you've got it